Hello and welcome to the third season of That's So Auburn. I'm joined today again by Green River College President Dr. Suzanne Johnson to talk about higher education, new initiatives, the changing educational landscape, and whatever else we want to talk about. So just a little bit about Dr. Johnson before we begin. She joined Green River College in 2017, and in those 8 years has been a major driving force in keeping higher education a backbone of the Auburn community. Under her stewardship, Green River College has thrived and continues to be one of the premier community and technical colleges in the state of Washington. And I'm going to go out even further than that and say in this country, because there have been some national awards that I want you to talk about. And might I also say that it is not only my daughter's alma mater, it is my alma mater, and
Excellent.
I am very proud of that. So I'm excited to welcome our guests. So let's just get started. Welcome to the show, Dr. Johnson.
Well,
Hi.
thanks for having me back. I'm delighted to be a repeat guest on this podcast.
I think you are one of our more recurring guests.
Okay.
So I think you hold that honor.
Excellent.
Right
I
now.
hope to do you justice.
Yeah, well, you always do, which is why we bring you back. So I think there's a lot to talk about today, and some good things, some challenging things that I know we talked about. You shared at the last Cities and Schools
Yes.
forum that we had, which I absolutely love. The Cities and Schools forum.
Right.
It's for those that are listening. It's Algona, Auburn, Pacific, Green River College, and the Auburn School District getting together quarterly to talk about relevant issues facing each one of us, each of the agencies or organizations, as well as what can we do together to be better community partners and make sure that the needs of our respective cities, districts, colleges are everything that we can absolutely do to make them the best.
Yeah, it's a great partnership and a good example of what we're trying to collectively build here for the Auburn community. Wanted to jump back to a comment that you made in the introduction. Thank you so much for your kind words. Green River is a leading college in our state. As some people know, right, we're one of 34 community and technical colleges in Washington state. Washington has one of the best state systems in our country. But Green River has the distinction of having been identified since 2021 as one of the top 150 community colleges in our country by the Aspen Institute for College Excellence. And for any of you listeners today, or viewers as it might be, you can Google, find out what is this Aspen Institute for College Excellence and what are they doing. And you can learn all about the criteria that they use to identify the best of the best. There are roughly about 1,100 community colleges in our country. Wow. And we've been in the top 150 since 2021. And that's really a testament to the wonderful faculty and staff that we have at our institution, how we are prioritizing student success for all students, and the kinds of initiatives that we're engaged in at the college. So I'm really proud of that. It comes out every other year, so we'll see what happens this coming fall. But we've been there since 2021. Yeah,
that's amazing. So is there a ranking then on that list?
Yes, and so within that 150, then there's a whole year-long process where those top 150 schools can compete for an Aspen Prize. And we have not reached our top 10 yet. However, we continue to work on the metrics that help us move up that list. And in case, I will mention a few things. A couple of things that Aspen Institute looks at is how successful do our students transfer to another institution, and another would be how successful are our students achieving employment in the programs that they've been in. And those two things, we've talked about this at the college for a long time, and it's something that comes up, I know, in our conversations with our Auburn Cities and Schools group. One of the measures of a success for a college is how successful students transfer, because a lot of our programs are 2-year programs, and a lot of students are going on to all other parts. I like to say that you can go anywhere from the banks of Green River.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
I love it.
And so we have students that transfer nationally to institutions. So do they successfully transfer? And then we have a lot of career technical programs where you've got students that come into our college. They know what they want to do, like nursing or cybersecurity or natural resources management. They know what they want to do. They already have their love. And then the measure we have is how successful are they in getting a job when they complete their degree with us. So those are two really important metrics that the Aspen Institute looks at. So to be in the top 150 is saying something about our programs and the education and student supports that our students receive.
That is phenomenal and something to certainly be proud about. What was the feeling when you found out the first time that you were included in that top 150?
I was so happy for everyone who worked so hard at that college. I had wondered, when I came in 2017, I was very blessed by coming to a college whose mission and investment and the community's investment at this college is so high. The passion is there. And I had wondered, had we not been in this top 150 before, and I don't think we really changed anything as much as we started to prioritize particular work. And that then helped us zone in on how we can have greater success for all of our students. So when I got the word that fall of 2021, I was just elated because I knew it reflected all the work that our faculty had invested in programs, our advising system, our tutoring system, all the different programs we have at our institution. I couldn't wait to share the information. I think people were surprised, but also I hope they felt proud of the work.
Absolutely. And, I don't know that they should be surprised. I think you and I have talked about this before. I think sometimes people don't value Green River College as much as they should simply because it is so close to home. It's in our backyard. And not every city has the opportunity to have higher education in their city. And I think some people take that for granted or I have to go away. I have to go out of state to get this great education.
Right.
And no, you don't. All you have to do is go up the hill.
Right. Go up the hill or go across town
yes.
To our downtown Auburn Center where we've got our aviation programs.
Right. And even Kent. We call that North Auburn
Kent,
sometimes.
Yep, exactly. Kent Station or even out to our Enumclaw location.
Yes.
And, of course, now even online.
Yes.
Especially since pandemic. Yeah, it is an interesting thing that I think there's two things that sometimes cause people to overlook what's in their backyard, right? One is, like you were saying, so many sometimes feel like they want to have that going away from home, whether it's out of state or further away from home experience. I get that. I went away to college and lived in dormitories and all of that. And we do have housing, and
yes,
so
you do.
We do have some local students that want that experience, and so they live in our housing, even though their families are nearby. That's a great thing to be able to have available. But I also think that historically, and I think things are changing, especially in Washington State, I think that there have been sometimes different attitudes towards a community college versus a four-year college or university.
True.
And one of the things that probably has changed, especially for Washington State, is our college, like all the other community colleges in our state, we're able to have four-year degrees now, right? We call them Bachelors of Applied Science, BAS degrees. So we have students that come from other states to our BAS degrees, in particular, our cybersecurity, our software development programs. We just got a BAS in accounting. That's a new program. Yeah.
I could have stayed at home.
You could have stayed at home. And we're hoping so because their demand is there.
Yes.
Right? And of course, nursing. We have a diverse group of students coming from all over our region for our BSN, which is a wonderful thing. So I think for us, being able to have those four-year degrees, and also I think our culture, our communities outside of even Washington State, we're understanding we can't operate as a country without welders and people who know how to repair cars. And as good examples, right? And so I think people are understanding that there are many industries that provide a living family wage job.
Absolutely.
For economic stability for that family in our community. And you can get it right there at Green River.
It's so true. I think it's probably been maybe 15 years ago, but we did such a disservice by saying that everybody had to have a 4-year degree, that you had to be college bound. And as you were saying, not everyone is college bound, but it doesn't mean they're not successful. And it doesn't mean they can't have a family wage job.
Right.
And we had a shortage of some of the trades for a
Oh,
while.
yeah. And we will, continuing forward.
Yes. So I'm so thankful that Green River College has the trades programs and very successful. I was sharing with someone the other day the fact that some of the students don't get to graduate before they are hired.
Yes.
And then the question was, well, do they go back and do they finish their time at Green River for that certification or whatever? And I said, well, I'm sure some do, and I'm sure some don't.
Right.
But
yes,
they've got great jobs.
for sure. Welding is an example of that. Automotive, and we know that there's a high need for electric vehicle repair now, and we're hoping to get our program up and running in EV pretty soon. And those are two areas. Carpentry, right, in terms of construction.
Yes.
We've had multiple programs where there's such a need in the industry. Industries will call in and say, "Who do you have? How far are they along? We'll take them." And and then there's always that push and pull, and you understand, right, that
Sure.
people want to get out there in the field and make a good, solid living. But yeah, there are challenges sometimes to keeping our students for completion, but they can always come back if they want. But if the money is good and the jobs are there, they've got adequate skills, and sometimes they can continue training on the job as well.
Mm-hmm. I hope people who are listening and watching understand just how valuable Green River College is. I am just so proud that we are partners, community partners. I am really proud of the work that we've done together. And Dr. Alan Spiciotti was on, I think, just the last episode, and we were talking about communities or cities and schools and how we are getting ready to resurrect the jobs program that we started pre-pandemic. I mean, our timing was not good on that. But
who knew?
Who knew? But the intent was there to match employers with employees and those who are getting the skills that they need, and even helping some people determine, these are the things that I like. What does that equate to in the working world?
Right. And that actually helps me think of what's new at Green River College, because there's what I've discovered across time, and I guess I've started to realize more and more the more I live, the older I am than everyone else around me.
I know that feeling.
Right? But I'm a hometown Missouri girl, 5th generation in Missouri. Then I spent a good bulk of my life in New York, and then I came here for this job.
Those are some very different climates.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you right now, the Pacific Northwest, and I know that some people from New York or the Midwest might disagree with me, but the Pacific Northwest has been the best physical climate I've ever lived in my life. I love not having humidity and
that's great.
Not the horrible heat and the horrible cold and all of those things. But unlike me, who's had to move for jobs and so on, I know that many, many people want to be able to be born, raised, live in that same community, and then to give back by getting a job in their community and to be able to live in that community in terms of cost of living and so on. And so to be able to revisit our visioning of what does it look like for every person within the Auburn area, Algona, Pacific, being able to vision what would I like to do and where are the jobs, right? Because the city of Auburn has done an amazing job bringing industry, bringing new businesses into this area. They want to stay, and they can stay if they've got really well-prepared future employees, right? So it's a circular relationship here in terms of economic stability and vibrancy of a community. But we need to ensure that we're giving our students, whether in K-12 or in the community, they've stepped out of education from whatever, and they've moved into this community because of how the growth is growing in our city, or moving into college. How do they know where the jobs are? How do they know what their interests are? And so, one of the things we've been working on for several years, and we just launched it this spring, is something called Guided Pathways. Now, Guided Pathways is a statewide initiative that all the community and technical colleges have engaged in. We began this work with the good fortune of being supported by legislation to help us provide funding for us to essentially organize all of our degree programs and certificates around areas of interest. Because what students will know when they come, or prospective students might know, is like, well, I like to do these things, but what is that called at this college, right? Or what do I major in?
Right.
Or what kinds of things can I study to get me to that job? Because there are many jobs that you can study all sorts of different topics and it gets you to that career. My degrees were in psychology. That's not really something that translates directly to being a college president, although it comes in handy.
Oh, I think it comes in very handy.
Right? But usually you think about that in terms of, okay, and here's the jobs that you do with those kinds of degrees. Well, I think for so many of our students, although they might know what they're interested in or what they like and don't like, they don't necessarily know, well, what does that look like in terms of what courses I should take? And if I take these kinds of courses, well, what kinds of careers can I have? And so Guided Pathways is really a organization of information that helps students identify their interests, and that tells them what course or class areas they might want to look at. And then we can show them, and you can check this out on our website because we launched what we call our areas of interest just the past month or so. Go to our greenriver.edu. And you can check out our areas of interest, and you'll see that not only do we have areas of interest in terms of what you can study and what that's called at our institution in terms of programs, but you can also click on those and they'll tell you what kinds of careers and earning potential you can have in each of those careers.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Right. And of course, we do have the individualized assistance. Like if a student came and said, I don't even know what I'm interested in, I don't know what I'm good at, and so on. We have advising in our Career and Advising Center, where you can take areas of interest, sort of inventories, and helps you start to identify what you might be better at versus other things. So we can always have that individualized assistance and support in terms of discovery and exploration. But we have launched our areas of interest, which is how we're describing our guided pathways. And why is it called guided pathways? We're trying to guide the students from the time they leave high school into our college, all the way through our college to, it's got to be a pathway to something, either to that next college they're transferring to or to their job. And so we're showing the linkages. And we're really hopeful that this is going to be an added, enhanced experience for students, especially those, and this is one of the things that I find to be so exciting about this area and the community of Auburn. We have so many families that have moved here, or so many people here who have never gone. They finished high school and they went right out into the work world for various reasons, right? Interest, opportunity, pressures. And they've never been to college. No one in their family has been to college before. And so if you've never been in a system, it's all unfamiliar.
Absolutely.
And it can be overwhelming. To anybody who's
just walking
new.
on the
right,
campus.
just to have the courage to step onto a campus and just know where do I go first, right? And so for any of you that are listening and you're wondering about that, I recommend go to our website and do a little exploration. And then the next thing you do, if you decide you want to come up to the campus, is you go to the Student Affairs building and you go to the welcome desk there. It's on the lower level. And there's somebody that's always at that help desk, and just ask them, what do I do first? And they're going to send you right to that Career and Advising Center, which is just a few feet away from there. And there will be people that will be able to meet with you and talk with you and get you set up for whatever that might be.
It can't get much easier than that. I mean, but getting to that campus is that first step, the hardest step probably that they'll take. It's a leap of faith, if you will. But once they get there, I know how supported your students are because you and your team truly, truly care about each student individually.
Absolutely. And I don't want to underestimate the kind of courage it takes, you know.
Absolutely.
But no, for those non-traditional students out there, what do I mean by that? Let's say you're in your later 20s or further into your life. I want you to know, in my last Pizza with the President, because I do that every month.
I love Pizza with the President.
I have met before, no kidding. I had a grandmother, a mother, and their college age, 19-year-old daughter, granddaughter. All three of them were all enrolled at Green River College at the same time.
Oh.
And so for all of you that are what we call non-trads, right, non-traditionals, I want you to know that there are a bunch of people at that college, and they always think about the same thing. Am I going to be the only one my age in the classroom? And you will discover you are not.
You are not.
There are many students who are coming back. They've stopped out many times. They've done different things, come back for a different kind of certification, right? So you're not alone. And for anyone out there in the audience that is wondering, can I do it? No one in my family's ever gone to college. I don't know whether I'm college material. I can assure you, yes, you are. Yes, you belong. And we can help you through the different steps of what it takes to become an enrolled student. My father was the first person that ever went. He went to what they called at the time junior college.
Oh, yes.
Flat River Junior College in Missouri. And he didn't get to finish his degree because his father passed away, but he came out of that initial year of his community college. He became a machinist and worked his way through, at 19, but he always wanted his daughters, he had 3 girls, to complete a college degree. And he broke the mold. No one in his family had ever gone to anything. My grandmother didn't even finish high school, nor did my grandfather. They were both high school, I guess we call them now, stop-outs or dropouts, but they eloped. And he worked in the lead mines, and she was stay-at-home. And so my dad broke the mold, and he worked his way all the way through a career where he was a marketing director for a printing press company when he passed away a number of years back. But he started as a machinist in a printing company in St. Louis, Missouri. So I saw through my father's life what the introduction of college was and what the value was that he saw and what he impressed upon all of us. Every family has that pivotal moment, and yours can be that too.
And for those who are out here, I love this Pathways because not everyone at age 17 or 18 when they finish high school knows what they want to be when they grow up.
Exactly.
Are you doing what you thought you would do at 17 or 18? You might be.
Oh, so here's what's interesting. I'm one of those, I guess, unique or the minority kind of person in that when I was about 16 or 17, I don't know exactly all the things that impacted me, but I decided I wanted to study psychology. And I did. And then I went on and got my master's and PhD in psychology. That's not a usual thing. Now, having said that, what have I done within higher education, though? I've had many different jobs. Yes, I was a faculty member for many, many years. I'm not going to say how many because then you'll start to age me out, from the audience here. And then I became a department chair and a dean and then a provost or a dean of a college and then a campus president and then a college president. And I can tell you, with the exception of being in that classroom, I never visioned myself in any of those other jobs, even the one I have. And it's not what I was technically trained to do, right? But what do I know is the case? What's more typical is that most people change their major or what they're studying at least 2 to 3 times while they're even in college. After that, and I think about the younger generations now, your career, for all of you listening out there, thinking, oh, I've got to make my decision. You're going to make many decisions. And what I used to say to students in my office when I was a faculty member, because they'd come in, they're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a third-year student, junior. I've got to decide what my major is. And I would always say the same thing. You can make the best decision right now for who you are as a person. In 5-10 years, you might be a different person. You will be a different person because there's different things that happen in people's lives that change them. And all those things are going to happen to all of us. For example, getting married or cohabitating, right? Committing to somebody. Relationship breakup, divorce, becoming a parent, whether it was planned or not, right?
Right.
The loss of loved ones, buying a home or getting a condo or, starting to live independently. All of these are really significant. Can you tell I'm a developmental psychologist?
Yeah.
That's like lifespan development. Any one of those events changes a person.
They are levers in your life.
Absolutely. Or significant birthdays. The fact that I ended up in community colleges happened because I had a birthday and the first number wasn't 2, 3, 4, or 6, right? And the last number was 0. But when I hit that 50 mark, it just hit me. It's like, what are you doing with the rest of your life? Right? I knew higher ed was always a love, but was I in the right place? And that's when I shifted to community colleges. So these are levers, absolutely. And they'll change you. Sometimes, not in significant ways, but oftentimes it shifts in motion a lot of new thinking. And so for all of you out there that are feeling pressure, like you've got to make the decision, no, you make the best decision for what your life is right now. It might be the one that's good forever.
Right.
But as you change, here's the most important, not that people are asking for advice today, but here's the most important point I guess I could make psychologically speaking today. If what you chose to do is no longer working for you and you're, 10, 15 years into it, change, especially if it's your career, because you spend more of your waking hours where you work and with the people you work with. It's not with your loved ones. As an adult, this is the case.
I say that all the time.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you throw the baby and the bathwater out. Right? There's phasing and planning and so on. But for your quality of life and your meaningful life, sometimes taking a little bit of a risk and having a little bit of a change can make all the difference. I didn't ever say this, but I know that there's some sort of piece of advice. You don't regret the mistakes you've made. You regret what you didn't take a risk to do. Regret the things you didn't take a chance on.
Right.
You don't want to be at the end saying coulda, shoulda, woulda.
No.
Right. And that's one of the things I love about being at a college that in its heart and its foundation was a community college, because it meets students where they are, where they're at in terms of what their needs are. And we can help with continuing education. We could help with a short-term certificate, meaning, 6-8 week long certificate. We can help with a 2-year degree. We can help with a 4-year degree. It's something for everybody. And it's also one of the other great things about a community college is it is the community's college.
Yes.
And so that partnership back with the school district, with the city of Auburn, Algonquin Pacific, we're a partnership. What happens in business and industry in the cities impacts what we need to do as educators, and what we do as educators impacts your ability to grow the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And excuse me, I know that we find ourselves running in the same circles quite often, which always makes me happy to see you at an event. When we were at the last Cities and Schools, we were each of us talking about some of our challenges.
Yes.
I was fascinated by the challenges facing Green River College. Can you share some of those? I don't want to make this a downer, but I think it's really important for people to understand where funding comes from and the challenges when programs can be negatively impacted and what that trickle-down effect is for the entire community.
Sure. Happy to talk about this. And, recognizing that, every every system, every sector of our country can be improved, right? In terms of reform, in terms of continuous improvements. Sometimes, though, individuals who may not be as familiar or as informed about the impacts of some proposals could have that can cause some high level of distress. And we're in a period of time right now where there are a number of things being proposed within the congressional process that could be very debilitating for not just Green River as a public college, right? We're a public community college, as all of our community colleges are in our state. Our funding comes from two sources, primarily. Because we're not a private institution, we don't have endowments like Harvard or Yale. There is no such thing as an endowment. Our foundation does great work, and what our foundation does is raise money for student scholarships and emergency assistance, right? So there is no profit at a college like ours.
Kind of like with the city. There's no profit.
Right, there's no profit. So our funding comes from federal grants and programs, and I can give some examples of those in just a second, and our state. And I do want to say a shout out to our state legislators. I know that this past legislative session was extraordinarily difficult.
It was brutal.
Really hard decisions had to be made. And I know it is true, on the one hand, our system did experience, we will have a reduction in funding. However, what that reduction could have been so much greater. And I just want to express my gratitude to our representatives and senators of our state legislature for recognizing the need to shield as much as possible the funding cuts that I know we all had to experience. So thank you, legislature, and we'll be back next year to talk to you about how things are looking and hopefully some optimism about that next biennium. So a great deal of our funding comes from the state. And that's where essentially all the money comes from in terms of our salaries and COLAs and so on, and tuition revenue.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So that's our state side. And then on the federal level, we have a number of programs. Okay, so one of the biggest things in terms of our federal proposals, there's some recommendations that are currently being considered by Congress that I'm working really hard with our congressional leadership, right, from the state of Washington, that are of significant concern. Financial aid is a federal program. Financial aid is money that helps support students that do not have the financial ability to pay by themselves to go to college. There are some proposals that would reduce eligibility for Pell, and Pell is for the lowest of income students. We're greatly concerned about the proposal for reducing Pell to our students, and we know at Green River that would affect hundreds of students every year.
Oh my gosh.
And potentially make it not possible for them to come to school. Another program which we're really proud of is TRIO. TRIO is a federally funded program, and currently it's being proposed for termination across the country. TRIO is a program that serves first generation to college, low-income students. It provides them with additional financial support and academic tutoring supports. So what is TRIO paying for? Well, it helps us support staff, employ staff who do this work. It's a grant-funded program. The grants are 5 years at a time. Our grants are coming. We have not only just the general TRIO, but we have TRIO STEM. So we have a second kind of TRIO grant, which is for students who are especially interested in careers in STEM. And if you're a first-generation, low-income student, sometimes because no one in your family has ever gone to college, no one's gone beyond the high school level. All the things we were just talking about earlier, how do you navigate school? How do you monitor your work? What kinds of additional supports might you need being a first-time to college student? That's what our TRIO and TRIO STEM programs do. We have a number of people who are employed through that grant to provide these supports academically and otherwise. They provide mentorship. They take them on different trips to other institutions to help them learn how to transfer. They bring speakers in, especially with Trio STEM. They're meeting other career professionals in those careers where they learn about how did they do it, right? Tutoring for all of their courses. And so to find that these programs could be potentially terminated by our federal government is of great distress. Another one is adult basic education.
Cuts to that too.
Yes, and the proposal to terminate that program.
Oh.
And again, I want to be very, authentic and objective here. Higher education, every sector of education or outside of education, every system can improve. Reforms are welcome. Constructive improvements, absolutely. I think we can all identify ways we can be better.
Yes.
As a sector for our country. But these are programs that have always experienced strong bipartisan support. And the reason that they do is because they work. And they help people break out of intergenerational poverty and make better lives for themselves and their families and have family sustainable living wage jobs. So these are the pathways to a stronger country, a stronger future. These are not people who are sitting on a couch, living off a dole. That's not what financial aid is about. It's not what these grant programs are about. It's not what adult basic education programs are at all. This is exactly the things that make the American dream come true. Work hard, have a dream, apply yourself.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
Exactly.
right? We've all heard that
Exactly.
before.
And these are examples of programs that absolutely illustrate people doing just that. So I've been working hard as all the presidents of the community colleges in this state and across the country. A good friend of mine, Russell Lowry Hart, who's now the chancellor of Austin Community Colleges in Texas, he and I were Aspen Fellows back in 2016. I know he just gave congressional testimony recently in the past week or two, sharing exactly what I've said, but far more articulately and probably with some good examples from his college. But I will just say to the audience, regardless of what your political affiliation is, there are programs that work and they work well in our country, and it helps people achieve American dreams.
And it's not partisan.
It's not partisan. And so if you're wanting to learn more about potential impacts, there are a lot of organizations you can check out to learn more about that. AACC, American Association of Community Colleges, probably has some information out there. And if you're inspired, you can always reach out to me too. I'm happy to talk with you about that.
Your pizza with the president, I love that idea. And I've seen that in action. It wasn't with the pizza at that time, but you hadn't been up at the college for very long. And we met up there and had lunch, and I just saw your interaction with the students, right? It was almost like you had rock star status up there. They were some of the students, some of them were international students, and we went over and introduced ourselves, and they're like, "Oh, the president's here talking to me," and they just couldn't believe it. And I know that's who you are and how you are. And I just hope the students at Green River and this entire community knows that we are so blessed to have you as the president at Green River College.
You're very kind, and thank you. I feel every day, even when I still walk on that campus, I walk around and I think, I can't believe I'm the president of this college. I've never felt more fortunate. And I will tell you, I love my pizza days with the students. I always have a question every time I have one, because it's my way of getting some information from them. And it also takes the pressure off, because I always ask my question first, and then I'll say, well, do you have any questions for me? And they'll be like, and sometimes they'll think of one and
you
like,
don't withhold pizza until they ask you a question, do you?
I do.
Yeah.
No, not if they ask me a question. They have to answer my question. But the one thing I miss, I was in the classroom for 25 years. I've been in higher ed for, I hate to say, but 38 years, full time, in one role or another. And the one thing I miss about not being in the classroom is being able to talk with students every day. And so one of the things that students will ask me, because I'm always asking, my question I asked last week was, what's the best thing that happened for you at Green River this year?
Oh.
And a few of the students, when I said, okay, so do you have any questions for me? One of the students said, well, what about you? What's the best thing that's happened for you? And I said, days that I can have time talking with you all and just finding out, because I always ask, how are your classes going? And I never want them to, don't tell me your instructor's names. Right. How are your classes going? Do you need any? Are you worried about any of your classwork? And I remind them about our tutoring centers and so on. But they did. They said, oh, so what's the best thing that's happened for you? And I said, every time I get to interact with students, one-to-one or small group, it's just a love, and it gives me an energy that I don't have in other things. Not that I don't like other aspects of my job, but
Certainly.
that's why we're all there. It's why we all have our jobs, is for those students. And it's just good it keeps me grounded,
Yes.
keeps me on the right path there. And there are times when students have come and they'll say, hey, I'm not happy about this, or, well, what do I do about this problem? And I'm happy to be able to help them. I oftentimes don't have the precise right answer, but I know who I can connect them with. And that tells me some things about how we could better, share information for the students. So, yeah, I love it. I do not miss a day of grading. I have never missed grading a paper or an exam of any kind.
How many red pens did you go through?
I had such a thing about red pens. So when I never used a red pen.
Good for you.
When I became a full-time faculty member back in ancient times, I made a conscious decision I was not going to use a red pen, because I remembered I was not the natural student. I did okay, but I had to work for every grade I got. I was the student that would go for tutoring, and I'd had to rewrite a paper over multiple times. Seeing a paper come back to me with all that red ink just kind of really turned my stomach. And so I decided I was never going to use red ink.
Okay.
And so I only used black and blue.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know whether it ever made a difference for the students, but I think just seeing something come back to you with all that red
all the
mark.
red.
Yeah. Yeah. But I hope it made a difference.
I bet it did.
Right. Well,
I
it made
bet
a difference to me, because what I would always think about is, this is just a learning opportunity. It's like, okay, this is how you did this time. Here's how you can do better. Resubmit. Students were always surprised, like, I can redo my paper. And I'm like, well, the goal here is for success.
Right.
So one student might have written the paper one time and they got an A on it. If you want to achieve an A, you might have to rework it 3 times.
It's a draft.
Right.
It's in
But if you're
draft form.
improving, right? And that's another, symbolically, that's what community colleges are like. Come back and come back.
Yes, come back. Do what you want to do. And again, I just think that this community and Green River College are so fortunate to have you in the leadership role. And I know you have a wonderful leadership team that you work with and for and learn from. And
every day.
Right? I mean, I don't know all of the things that I may be good at, but I do know that I'm good at surrounding myself with really good people.
I've gotten better with that across time. It's because I had been a faculty member and then, progressively moved into administration. I've had more years where I completely agree. The best thing to do is you want to choose people that complement your strengths. You don't need redundancy.
No.
And what that does then is it creates a really strong leadership team where we don't see eye to eye on things all the time. And there's not a day that goes by where I'm humbled in learning or being reminded I don't know everything. Not that I wake up thinking that, but having a strong and diverse leadership team that come from different perspectives, different experience, and knowledge skill keeps me on my toes. And, obviously I have something to offer as well, but I'm really proud of the leadership team that we have and that we continue to build at the college. And again, I just can't say enough good things about our faculty and our staff at all levels of our college. You know, one of the things that I think would be really important for everybody to know in this community is that we're there for our community. And yeah, we do have international students. We have one of the largest international programs of a community college in our state. And that's a wonderful thing because it's a vibrant, very active campus life. But it also helps everybody, local students and international students, to learn about what their futures are going to be. I mean, unlike us, where our careers were not really all that global and international, these students' lives are going to be.
Yes.
Our world is so interconnected. So it's a wonderful opportunity to have so many different languages, so many different cultures intermingling. And even within our Auburn community, not even as international students, our Auburn community has become very international. I look at the demographics of our K-12 in Auburn schools.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing, amazing melting pot.
It really is. I mean, it's certainly changed since I was at Green River.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things that makes us strong is our diversity.
Completely. And, you know, when you've talked about how it's changed, I've only been here for, I mean, I can't believe it's 8 years. It seems like it's just flown by. I mean, some days seem like the 20 years.
The days are
right?
long, but the years are short.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I can't believe how much growth and diverse business, industry, housing, the changes that have happened in the city of Auburn since even I've been here, I can't get over it. Now, I knew somewhat because I was looking at all the economic markers and projections before I decided to really apply for this job, right? I looked at what the South King County demographics were suggesting, right, in terms of population growth, in terms of business industry, and I looked at what I could find in terms of the city of Auburn. And every indicator that I saw back in that 2016-17 year was this was a city that was about to, and I don't mean it in a negative way, I mean it in a good way, that was about to explode in terms of growth. And some of that having to do with population coming, but the other had to do with the economic plans and the visioning that you all at the city council and in your office have really been working toward in terms of bringing industry, diverse industries into this area. And it's just all happened right in front of my eyes. I can't imagine for those who have been, Auburnites since, when, in
we
terms
moved
of
here in 1968.
I can't even imagine how different Auburn is from that time when you moved here to now.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. It was about 14,000 population, and we're over 90,000 now.
Right.
We were a very white community. We had Muckleshoot Indian tribe, but for the most part, we were a very white community. And I think the diversity in our community now is just one of the things that has helped us in our successes. And I want to see that continue. And I know that the student population up at Green River, you see a very diverse population at Green River College.
Oh, absolutely. We are a students of color majority now.
Really?
And yes, absolutely. And, I see, again, I mean, diversity is a strength. It's just a beautiful, beautiful quilt of the diverse, lived experiences and just the spectrum of what it means to be human.
Right.
You know, I used to say in one of my courses, being human means being different.
Absolutely.
And one of the most amazing things about humans is our capacity for diversity in thought and feeling and behavior, and we come in all shapes and sizes. And so, yes, Green River, even in the time I've been here, has transitioned into a students of color majority. And that's going to continue when you look at the K-12 population. But that means success for all. I think sometimes when we talk about topics like this, there might be a particular group that feels like they're becoming marginalized and so on. Not at all. We're bringing people together. Arms can hold many things. It's not only able to hold one thing, right? And so inclusion and belonging means everyone succeeds.
Yes.
Not the winners and losers. No, we're all able to help everybody succeed. It's one of our priority goals: success for all students.
I love that. So we could probably talk for the next 5 hours about all of this, and we would have an exceptionally good time doing so. But before we end today, I know how busy you always are up at the college and how it's in the forefront of your mind. Do you have any fun plans for this summer? Any time you're going to take away from the Hill?
I am actually, and usually I don't have an answer for this because I love my job. But my mother is going to be 95 this summer,
her.
and she's going strong. And recently, she unfortunately had a bit of a time in the hospital, but she's doing fine now. She had pneumonia, but while she was in the hospital, she happened to slip and fall, and she broke her leg. But she's doing well,
Okay.
And she's in rehab. Anyway, I'm going to be going to Missouri, where my family is.
In the heat of the summer.
In the heat of the summer, thank
With all the
goodness for
mugginess.
central air conditioning.
Yes.
Because it's everywhere. But toward the end of June, after our graduation, Green River's graduation is June 18th. We can't wait for that day. But that next week, I'll be going to visit her and helping when she comes out of the rehabilitation back to her independent living.
Wonderful.
And so I'll be there for a few weeks to be with her and help her and give my sister a little bit of a respite because she lives there with her family. So I am actually going to be in my home state of Missouri for a few weeks, into June, early July, taking care of, visiting family and taking care of some family obligations, which might not sound all that fun to some, but it'll be great. I don't get to see her very often, and I know she'll be happy for me to be there to help a little bit.
Of course.
But I'm looking forward to it. It's I get there every summer, but this time I'll be there a bit longer, and I can work remote while I'm there. so I'm going to do that. No, well, I can only, I'll take a week or two off, but
Okay.
I'll work remote from there for a bit so I can be there a little longer. So I am looking forward to that. What are you doing this summer?
Well, we don't have any vacation plans, so if I do anything, it'll be around the house a little bit. But I hope that even though you'll be away from, do they still call it Harvard on the Hill at all?
I don't. Well, I'm sure
So
that
that was
there's
in my
some,
era.
Yeah,
It was
I'm sure
Harvard
that
on the
there
Hill.
are some, and here's what I'd like to say about that. It's great because it does reflect the high quality education
Absolutely.
that students receive at Green River. You don't have to pay a lot of money to get a good quality education, and I will stand and defend to the death that you can get as good as or better education at Green River than any place else you go. And it has a lot to do with the quality of our faculty and also the small classes and the personalized attention. So I'm totally supportive of the Harvard on the Hill in terms of our quality of education. I'm happy to let that die, though, because what I don't want people to think is it's not for them, right? Because sometimes people would hear that and they might think, oh, well, then obviously I'm not included in that, right? But Harvard on the Hill, in terms of our quality of education, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, well then I think I'll end with Go Gators.
Go Gators.
And thank you, Dr. Johnson, Suzanne,
Thank
for
you.
being here today. It's
Greatly appreciate it.
always such a pleasure to catch up with you. And maybe I'll pop up for one of the pizzas with the president. I've been thinking, what can I do with the mayor? And all I'm thinking of right now is like meatloaf with the mayor. I don't know if that doesn't have quite the same sound to it as pizza with the president.
It might be a great opportunity for both of us to do a pizza session with students. We can get some video
would love
cameras
that,
up there,
yes.
and maybe we could even do a live podcast from I do it by the Daily Grind.
Love that
So
idea.
by the Fireplace Daily Grind,
Yes.
we could do a live podcast from Green River College.
I love it. I get the producers of this show. I hope you're listening right now.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Maybe in the fall.
Maybe after you've had a chance to recharge down in Missouri.
Yep, in the nice corn sweat heat.
Yes. Just make sure to stay inside because I know what that mugginess is like
It's
in the
something.
summer outside.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to come talk about the college at any anytime. And maybe in the fall we could get Dr. Spicciati here, and we could talk about our initiative in terms of education to career pathways for Auburn.
We'll do it.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, and
Thank
thank you
you
all for listening to another episode of That's So Auburn.